Through their invasion of Ukraine, Putin, his inner circle and his generals are now mirroring fascism and tyranny of 77 years ago, repeating the errors of the last century's totalitarian regimes. They are showing the same disregard for human life, national sovereignty and the rules-based international system, the very system, not least the United Nations Charter itself, that we conceived together and for which we fought and were victorious together, in the hope of saving future generations from the scourge of war. Just over an hour ago, and 1,500 miles away, the world was implored to listen and watch Red Square. This is the victory parade in honour of the 77th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War. But really what President Putin wants is the Russian people and the world to be awed and intimidated by the ongoing memorial to militarism. And I believe that his ongoing and unprovoked conflict in Ukraine does nothing but dishonour those same soldiers. Both the ones marching across Red Square as I speak and all the forebearers they supposedly march to commemorate. All professional soldiers should be appalled at the behaviour of the Russian army. Not only are they engaged in illegal invasion and war crimes, but their top brass have failed their own rank and file to the extent they should face court-martial. And for them and for Putin, there can be no victory day, only dishonour and surely defeat in Ukraine. They might seek to control Russia's futures, but their past, through their past. But in the end, the past always catches up with you. He and his generals are now ripping up both Russia's past and its future. Through their invasion of Ukraine, Putin, his inner circle and his generals are now mirroring fascism and tyranny of 77 years ago, repeating the errors of the last century's totalitarian regimes. They are showing the same disregard for human life, national sovereignty and the rules-based international system, the very system, not least the United Nations Charter itself, that we conceived together and for which we fought and were victorious together, in the hope of saving future generations from the scourge of war. Their unprovoked, illegal, senseless and self-defeating invasion of Ukraine, their attacks against innocent civilians and their homes, their widespread atrocities, including the deliberate targeting of women and children, they all corrupt the memory of past sacrifices and Russia's once proud global reputation. The response to this failure by the Russian forces on the ground in Ukraine has in itself been a disgraceful display of self-preservation, doubling down on failure, anger, dishonesty and scapegoating. The behaviour of the Russian General Staff has shown that their own self-preservation comes first. War crimes, targeting civilians and the casualty rates in their own battalion tactical groups are all secondary concerns. The truth is that Russia's General Staff are failing, and they know it. I don't think we should forget that it is very possible that Ukraine will break the Russian army to the extent that they either have to go back to pre-February or they have to effectively, it folds in on itself. But ultimately, the price that is being paid by Russians for their illegal invasion is a price that needs to be faced up by the Russian leadership. He must come to terms with the fact he's lost in the long run. I mean, he's absolutely lost in the long run. Russia is not what it was. It's lesser, not greater as a result of this. His armed forces have been exposed as not being this great superior armed forces that the world thought he had. Everyone thought they were sort of slightly 10 foot tall. That's not the case. The international community predominantly has come together very strongly, of all countries in Europe and Canada, in Australia, etc. So he is more isolated, lesser country, and he's lost in the long run, and we should recognise that. Whatever happens in Ukraine, and we hope, more than anything, that Putin fails in Ukraine. Whatever happens in Ukraine, President Putin is going to be, around for some time, and I'm afraid I am an old soldier. I remember the Cold War. I remember all of that. We have to ask ourselves how are we going to contain him and his Russia in a way that means we provide security and safety to Europe. That involves Ukraine. It also involves NATO countries and non-NATO countries on his eastern flanks, and that's what we're trying to do.